My name is Nils. I'm a senior tech advisor for a company called Divine Robots in Lund, Sweden, Malmö, Sweden. Today I'm going to talk about gamification in smart water. So I'm really happy to be here. This is the first time in the Swan conference for me. And obviously a mandatory joke about not being young. And not really being rising any longer professional, we'll see about that. Okay, so agenda today. No, thank you. I'm going to be quick about this because the faster I speak, the sooner you're going to be able to play the game. I'm going to do a short presentation about Divine Robot. I'm going to talk about serious games and gamification and a little bit things that you have to think about when you're doing these kind of things. And motivation, I'm going to talk a bit about my wife. There goes the professional part, but it's important. And we're going to go to the case study, which is basically the game we're going to play this evening. So, very shortly about Divine Robot. We started doing serious stuff, like applications and system software. We go to the next one. This is going fast, you know. Yeah, this is speedy. That's why I need a clicker, really. And then we started doing games when the iPhone became popular. So we did a few games with a very, very moderate success. But then, yeah, we did get one big hit, Blobster. Anyone of you got to be the Angry Birds generation, some of you here. Did you play Angry Birds when you were kids? Yeah, Angry Birds was the game to try to beat, right? Did we succeed? No, of course not, we did not. We were number 3. Number 2 was Angry Birds. Number 1 was also Angry Birds. But still, it actually founded our company. After that, we really started off. We were 2 people at this point. And since we've done some serious stuff and we've done some games, we figured, why not try both? Because we used to corporate environment, we used to businesses, serious people, and we used to games. So let's combine and try that. So we've done some tractor simulations, we've done some hunting simulation, we've done water simulations. Yeah, and that's very shortly about Divine Robots. Today we're about 20 people. And working in southern Sweden. Yes. I think you missed one. There's one before. Yeah. Gamification. Gamification is not games. So this is something important if you're going to think about this later. Gamification is actually when you use game elements like badges, high scores, progressions, whatever, and you apply them to something else. So gamification is not necessarily computer games or VR simulations or whatever. Gamification can be used in many ways and is used in many ways, has been before it was called gamification, like a sales competition or a prize for best idea or something. That's gamification also. So there are a lot of stuff that you can think about in your organization or stuff that can be done with gamification. That's not really a game. But in my case, I'm here because I'm talking about serious games, which is really a sub-part of gamification. Serious games or simulations, it really depends on the clients what we talk about, because if you're a very, very serious client, we talk about simulations, right? And if we have a fun client who wants something fun, we talk about games. They're yeah, closely related. Next one. No. Yeah, exactly, but that's not the slide I wanted to have. This doesn't really work. Yeah, okay, that's all I got. Yo. So the definition about serious games is a game that's used primarily for something else than pure entertainment. That's a definition of serious game. It doesn't sound really fun, does it? And this brings me to this point. This is a commonly used expression I really love. Chocolate-covered broccoli. That's exactly what it looks like. You have something really, really boring, and you try to kind of cover it in something fun. And the result is well, almost always worse than actually just providing the broccoli in this case. So that's something you really have to think about when you do this kind of gamification stuff. It's very easy to get stuck there. You have something. I mean, you're going to do your taxes, and you get a badge for doing your taxes. You really don't care because it's going to be boring anyway. It might even be insulting to have the badge when you're done with your, 2 weeks of going through all the receipts from last January. I have my own business. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, okay, next one. So, this brings me to my wife. She's an assistant professor at the University of Lund in the Institute of Teaching and Learning. And she's taken an interest in digitalization in education. And she writes articles like, "What's the deal with digitalization? A critique of techno solutions in higher education." So basically her profession is criticizing my profession. Go figure. No, but seriously, obviously she's been a huge help, and this is something really important. This is serious. This is not just serious games, this is actually serious. It's not enough being able to just do computer games, programming computer-based, and possibly, hopefully, knowing a bit about water as well. You have to know some of this stuff as well. What drives a person? Why do they want to play? How do you move them on? How do you continue, have them interested in a game? And she talks a lot about this, and I've learned a lot about this. Obviously, she's helping us with a few other games as well. But I picked up a few things. So, yeah. So what we often talk about when we're talking about why do you do something, anything really, we have these concepts: extrinsic motivation versus intrinsic motivation. And it's basically what it sounds like. Extrinsic is something that comes from outside. Intrinsic is something from the inside, right? Extrinsic motivations is something like praise, high score, badges, grades, money, punishments. That's a negative extrinsic motivation. And this is not a bad thing, obviously. I mean, lots of people have extrinsic motivation, probably your job, because you wouldn't go to your job most of the time if you don't get paid, right? And that's an extrinsic motivation. If you're really, really lucky, maybe have a job that you want to do somewhat anyway, but yeah. And there's a very interesting, there's an interesting study done when there was someone who should do something, a real menial, boring task, like, I know, sorting buttons in colors or something. It took an hour. And then they asked students to help. And they just asked them to help. And yeah, they did. And yeah, it wasn't the most fun thing in the world, but they helped out and they talked a bit and stuff, and they got the stuff done. Then they offered €5 to do the same job. And all of a sudden it became the worst boring job in the world. Because €5 really doesn't cover sitting several hours and do some seriously boring job, right? But then they offered them €50. And yeah, back on track, of course. Yeah, sure, I'll do this. I'm a poor student. I'll gladly take €50 to do something menial boring. And then we have an interesting situation with the extrinsic motivation, where something is done for free and for €50, but not for €5. And that's something that's really interesting that you need to think about when talking about gamification and stuff. You don't want to get in the €5 zone, because then you're actually making chocolate-covered broccoli. Yeah, back, please. Now we're going to intrinsic motivation. And that's the other way around. That's something that's purpose, challenging, progress, cooperation, things that you do because it's fun and you have a feeling that you're doing something useful, meaningful. And there's nothing wrong with extrinsic motivation. We are using it, of course. We're going to try to have a high score here later. That's extrinsic. But for professionals, when doing something, trying to teach something deeply, something hard for professionals, I mean, I'm talking about you. I'm all about money, but you guys. It may be actually better to do go for intrinsic motivation. Try to inspire something meaningful and deep when playing the game. There's a challenge here as well, because it's all in the balance here. So either you can do it too easy, and then you're getting back to sorting buttons again. It's too easy and it's boring. Or you can do it too hard, and then you stop and you find it's boring again. So the balance when doing intrinsic motivation is really, really important. Yeah. So uses for gamification and games, obviously. Education, upskilling is one of the themes for this year's conference. Is an obvious use to internally, if you have a big organization, perhaps you want to, the other part of the organization know what you're doing. Perhaps you want to shift people over from one part of the organization to the other. Recruiting, what we're doing the games for university. And by then, we hope we're getting them interest in those areas like water management. Communication, I get this often. There's one thing, we haven't done anything about it yet, but I'm sure we will because everybody asks about it. Normally, I assume it's the same in most of the world. The people who decide what kind of money you get are politicians, or at least in the public. And there's been so many people asking me, can't you please do anything that we can bring to our politicians and have them finally understand what we are doing? And I think that would be quite a powerful way of showing what you're doing and what you're caring about, is to actually have them try it themselves. Yep. So this brings us to today's work. Today we're going to play a game that's called Nordic Education. It started with this. Future City Flow is from DHI. It's an expert system working with inflow and infiltration in sewer systems. And they came to us and wanted to talk about this and see if they can do next slide. They wanted to see if we can do a game with these kind of goals. So they wanted to teach the general knowledge about how to handle inflow infiltration in sewer systems. They wanted to have specific information of actually how their particular system software were handling inflow and infiltration. For that, we needed some very quick real-time modeling. And we're talking quick and dirty here. We had before we started it, we had a kind of, we call it flow engine, basically an engine to model any kind of flow, like people or electricity or cars or whatever. But it's simple. It's not hydraulic modeling in any shape or form. Our point here was to be educational, not predictive. That's you guys. You have to do that. We only have to be accurate enough to be educational. Yeah, experimentation, and we got two solutions from this. We got the Future City Flow onboarding, and we got the Nordic Education game. So basically, this is the same game. This is the same model in the background. It's the same instructions, same missions and setups, but two very, very different fronts. So in this case, you play the Future City Flow onboarding game, which is worked as a training to actually use the tool. In this case, you use Nordic Education, which is more of a game, obviously, but you're basically doing a lot of the same things, and we made sure to use the same terminology and the same data and same everything, but it's more geared towards a general knowledge of how to do these kind of things. We use something called case-based learning for this, or problem-based learning. Basically, what you do is, well, you drop them in the deep end, don't you? You kind of, you set up a problem, and you have them solve it. And first, we try to guide them with the different tools that are available. But quite soon, as soon as possible, we kind of back off and let them try to solve the problems on their own. And we get several missions or scenarios, if you will, like reduce the overflow in the system with 30% using, I don't know, 10 million euro or whatever. And that's your goal. You're supposed to figure it out. This is a way of working that's very, very useful when you have a situation like this when there are no simple yes and no answers. Because you can always keep on optimizing, you can always change things and try new things in eternity. So the point is actually to teach that this is complicated. Here are the students playing. So this is basically, normally they do a 2-day workshop. We're really going to speed play this today. I'm a bit worried about that, but I think we have about 45 minutes that you're going to go through, that they go through in 2 days. But they do workshops and sit together in pairs or threes, and they work for 2 days normally and go through this all these scenarios. I love this picture. This looks really, really corporate arranged, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not. It's real. They're actually playing the game and laughing. So it's perfect image. And here's, I'd say this is something I'm most proud of with this, but this is what I think we succeeded with. Obviously, this is a university, so they evaluate everything. We got evaluations and questionnaires and stuff like that, but this question is really good, I think. Playing the game helped me understand complex water flows in the city. And yeah, at least nearly 80% thought that, yeah, it really helped. So next one. So before, the professor who led this asked a simple question. What's the best way of solving inflow and infiltration in a sewer system? And there were 60 people, and about 80% of them said, well, blue-green water solutions, that's the end all of everything. Probably because that was the last thing they read about, I don't know. But yeah, they were absolutely convinced that that's the only thing that really helps. And after playing the game, they asked the same question. Yeah, and this is it. I mean, hopefully they've learned a bit as well. They learned a bit of what works and not, but this is an important lesson. And I think this is a lesson that's quite hard to teach with books or even classes. But when you really can try it yourself, you understand that, yeah, this is complicated stuff, and I really need to learn something to be able to fix this. Yeah. That was it from me.